Truth Bombers Podcast.
Truth Bombers Podcast.
The group chat turned podcast with your hosts, Russ, Lachie, and BJ.
Here he is, Russell.
Fellas, how are we?
Doing,
Good, Russ.
doing much better than episode 11, that's for sure.
How you feeling today? Better?
Yeah, he's better. He's better
Yeah.
today. It's telling Lachie, feeling he's better today and finally get out tomorrow. So I think a lot of people thought that I was in here with like a knee sprain, like I'd like twisted my knee, like playing footy. It's just kind of been like, oh, you're still in hospital? I'm like, yeah. Like I haven't just like tripped over and like grazed my knee. Like I've completely ruptured like tendons in both.
Yeah, bro. Even when I was there with you on Saturday, I'm like, bro, it's been a whole week and you look rough still. Like if I had seen you on, like, you looked as bad as I thought you'd be on like the first Saturday. It was like a full week later.
Yeah. So I feel like this weekend was kind of being that turning point where it's like even just a bit more like mentally aware, I guess, of like the world too, as it's kind of passing me by. And maybe that just comes with as well, like Lachie was sort of saying, like just I guess the acceptance of kind of how long like this recovery is going to be. And I thought maybe a win on Saturday, just like have one thing kind of go my way, like a win on Friday night, and it was.
I feel like that's where you were. The mindset that you were on Saturday, I think that was the start of it. You were saying like, geez, fucking. I think reality was hitting home. Like it's not just a week; it's going to be like 6 months. And am I going to get back to where I was beforehand? And yeah.
So I suddenly have a lot more like, I guess, empathy for like when someone like does a knee, and it's like when someone comes back from an ACL after 12 months out, like just actually what that's entailed. I guess arguably like my journey's tougher because I've done both knees and I'm also not getting paid $800,000 a year to rehab.
I was gonna say, and the bill and the club's covering the bill.
Podcast is not quite covering the bills, but boys, not yet. But it's I've thought you like this one. A lot of the nurses here, as it turns out, are Melbourne supporters, so they've been kind of chirping me all week.
That's in recovery.
Knowing that we're recording the podcast, and I just tried to pull two of them in to say g'day, and they're like not coming in. So I told them I was going to review all their nursing on the episodes. They have to listen to it to get personalized reviews. But I've got them a thank you card to say thank you, and I have put on that card a QR code, so they have to scan the QR code, and it's going to take them like right to this episode. So I reckon that might be the marketing play forward. But we're in a meeting of three, and as we are still unsponsored on the podcast, even though unbelievably now at episode 12, we only have the 40 minutes on the time. So let's get to it. Got plenty on the run sheet. Obviously been feeling better, had a lot to think about. Let's get cracking. And Russ, I notice you've got yourself a little prototype mug there.
Merch mug.
I've got the other one actually that I'm running. So things are happening. Lach, don't worry, mate. We've got some for you too. We just haven't seen you. So those of you that do the support the show, we'll definitely be playing around with some different bits and pieces as we go over the coming weeks. But boys, on the menu today, we're joined by a very special guest. His name is Owen 3. So we'll have a bit of a chat to him. We're going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to go through obviously the best on. I've actually got a new segment for this week, which I'm super excited about. We'll play a little bit of Locked Out, and then I want to talk to Bombers VFLW and also the Bombers VFLW team as well, and sort of what's been going on there. Obviously some things for us that could be coming up that make things a little bit interesting. And I've got an interesting talking point for Around the Grounds too. So let's get straight into it. Lads, I'll ask an open-ended question for you both. Is it panic stations, or are we right where we expected we should be at this point?
I'll open this up. I think we're exactly where we thought we'd be. Round 3. Panic stations start round 4 and round 5. We kind of summed up at the start of the season that first 5 games, and we were pretty big on like if we could be 2 and 3, we'd be happy, we'd be ecstatic. If we got like a surprise win, we have to look at what we've done in the first 3 weeks. Yes, we're 0 and 3. there's a couple other teams that are 0-3. If you look at what those guys have played, they've played guys that are in, Adelaide. Port Adelaide played Adelaide, they lost. We've played the top 8 teams, top 4 teams we thought would be in the ladder, our prediction. I don't think it's panic stations yet, but we lose to Adelaide, that's when the panic comes on very fast.
Yeah, I think we're behind where we expected to be, and not saying that I thought we'd win those 3 games or even 2 from 3, but we sort of talked about trying to be competitive each and every week versus those top sides, and you'd like to think that you could jag one of those wins. So I think we're behind expectations at the moment.
All right, boys, I'll put this to you. If we didn't get absolutely flogged by Geelong and it was competitive, we lost by 10, 20 points, do you think you got the same mindset?
Not at all. I think we've been getting better each week. I mean, there's, I guess, like losing merit is probably we've had some pretty big outs already this year. And that for me is almost like a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting here being like, geez, how good is like having all this midfield depth? And now I feel like it's like, we're fucking out of midfielders. Like we're running out of it's round 3. So I think that side of things leaves us potentially in a worse position than we are. But the problem now becomes with a percentage of 65, these games against Adelaide and Fremantle, knowing that we still after that have the Dogs and Collingwood who look really good, and all these kind of other teams we might have penciled in.
Carlton even.
Yeah. Hawthorn, we don't just need to, that Geelong game in particular, we need to be winning at least one of the next 2 games by 6, 7, 8 goals to really just get some respectable percentage. Because even if we win our next game, of all the teams that will have 1 win by that stage, we'll still be at the bottom, or maybe above North. I think North have a worse percentage than us. Thanks to Brisbane's final quarter, but not by much. So I agree with you both. I think we're exactly where we thought we'd be from a points perspective, but disappointing to see where we are from both an injury and a percentage kind of.
Yeah, the percentage is a big thing I've been thinking of for myself. But I was looking at we did take the foot off the gas in the last quarter of those games. Like, yeah, we were beaten, and there was still 10 minutes left, pretty much, and we took the foot off the gas, or the guys were defeated. There's an extra 2, 3 goals, 4 goals put on those games that probably shouldn't have been there if they put through a 4-quarter performance. And they're the things that get us into finals. Like, we're obviously on the back foot already, and we're looking at 63% percentage at the moment. You look at the top 8 sides there, that bottom half of the top 8 are on 118%. 9th and 10th are on 110%. Percentage. Like, we're a long way behind with percentage, and we can't afford to just let those games. You were beaten. Yeah, they can't. The game's over. We need to keep in those 4 quarters and not have those extra 3, 4 goals kicked on us after we're beaten.
Well, last year, I think what were we? One from 8 games under 2 goals that we won. But it's also what you don't talk about there is, well, at least like 8 of your losses have only been within 12 points, which is why our percentage was so good.
Yeah, we didn't need someone to get us into the finals last year. We won enough games to get in, but we were so far ahead of everyone's percentage on those fringe top 8 sides where we got into the finals comfortably. That's not going to happen this year, boys. Like, we're so far behind after 3 rounds that we need to be winning every single game from now on, and we can't afford any of those, 4th quarter blowouts.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Egg Langdon kicked one of the biggest bullshit goals you've ever seen. Like 3 goals, didn't even look at the ball or the goals, just slapped it on the boot, and it, reversed like gravity, like somehow sucked itself in. Like, just that kind of stuff stings. But let's get to it. I'm keen to speak, obviously, specifically about the Melbourne game. And Lach, I'll start with you. And you're a big fan of the clock. I'll give you 30 seconds. Just your first thoughts, mate. What you thought we did well? What do you think we did poorly? And generally, how are you feeling about the game on Friday night?
Really disappointed with our start. We've talked about disappointing start sometimes coming around to bite us. Fought back really well. Good to see that we could overtake them in the third quarter and look really dangerous. But at the end of the day, just didn't look up to it in that fourth quarter with our execution more than our effort.
Yep, completely agree. Russ?
Yeah, I guess we past Fs, we sum up in 3 words, and I think I'll do it. We were very lucky. We were very lucky that Benny Brown got taken out with COVID restrictions. I think we're very lucky they didn't capitalize on those first quarter conversions. I think if they had a kick straight, when Benny Brown would have torn us apart if he was playing, and they could. That first quarter could have been the same as Geelong round 1. They had the chance to take us out that first game in that first quarter and tear us to pieces. And we were very lucky to be in it and actually have a chance to fight back in the second, third, and fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree with both. I actually think that was the best game that we've played, but I think the D's inaccuracy flattered us very much in terms of how close that game was. And it wasn't the Melbourne team that we've seen turn on a dime twice. The last 2 times they played the Bulldogs and shower 17, unanswered goals, which we know they're capable of doing. Maybe we can take credit for that, but I think that, we definitely were flattered. But it's funny, Russ came in on Saturday to come and say good day, and we started watching the GWS Gold Coast game, and he goes, fuck it, let's watch the Bombers game again. And we're sort of sitting there catching up, and even watching in the replay, knowing the outcome. I think Russ at one point, he's like, I'm feeling optimistic. We really have win this game. And it did feel like that.
Right after the fourth quarter, I was like, we can win this. We can win this. I know the outcome, but we can win this.
It definitely did feel like of the games we've played, we actually did have that one in a chance. And when you're going to beat a top side like that are a little bit off, it's those half chances that you do need to learn, how to take. So the good and the bad, the ugly. I'll start with you, Russ. What was the good? What are we happy with from the game?
Yeah, look, I think there was a lot of goods that came out of that game. I was pretty bullish. I think on the Thursday of the pod, I was saying they had a lot of big outs. I was pretty bullish that we had a good chance of actually taking, the top team out. And Benno, I know you spoke about how every time 2-meter Peter takes a screamer and kicks a goal, you look at me and say, you're wrong. And I've never been so happy to be wrong. That I honestly believe now that he can be that guy. We look at Cal Looker last year, gets those 2-3 goals a game, takes on one defender. He's doing the right things for 3 weeks in a row. And I've always called it how I see it. I didn't think he could be that guy. And I'm coming around now. He's that guy. He's going to kick 2-3 goals. His work rate's good. He's working on the ground. I thought he had played an absolutely amazing game, with the assists and the goals. I was very, how do I put it, upset and frustrated with the coaching team last week that they didn't make any changes. They absolutely came to this game knowing the gameplay that Melbourne was going to have. We played 2 ruckmen, and, Ben, I know you're Flip's number 1 man. And I said all this podcast that he needs to be playing. I don't think if Flip played, we even came close to that. Draper got towed up in the contest. I think he had something like less than 5 possessions for the whole game. His clearances were down. Flip took it to the big guys, and it was absolutely amazing to see Flip actually turn up, take some contests, and to see Durham and another one of Ben's blokes, to see Durham with only 10 possessions actually make those work, and the work rate, the tackle rate.
Second efforts, third efforts.
Yeah, the second and third efforts. Yeah, absolutely. Guelphy, another one, most tackles on the day. He looks like a fringe player, just absolutely playing his guts out to keep his spot, and he did it. And that's what we want to see.
We'll leave locks to tell us who gets the spots and who doesn't. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. But Peter Wright kicked 4, not 2 or 3 this week. So I'll just pull you up on that little one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And arguably should have kicked 5 too, the one that he missed. And that's kind of the thing again, like that really clutch. And I'll kick us off with the bad. Like that last quarter, Guelphy, Wright had one. I think Caldwell had one. Or if he did at least in the first quarter, just
Ham missed a very gettable shot.
Yeah,
that's those 3 or 4 there in that last quarter. It's not just, I've said it a lot, like it's not just the points that you get from kicking a goal or 2 goals. It's the momentum and the belief and the pressure that comes with that really is ultimately what can carry you through. And arguably that also might have woken the sleeping D's giant. But I just think that it was like, fuck, like they were right there. And those are shots that like 35 meters out on the run, open goal, like Ham has to kick that goal 10 out of 10 times to be in the team. Like otherwise, what's he doing in the team?
We spoke about that with Guelph as well. Like, he's a fringe player, absolutely amazing. Those, leading tackle getter. If he had made, like he had 3 shots on goal, he had made even one of them. Like, that's meant just your spot on the team. Yeah.
One goal a week from Guelph and 5 tackles, and that's like he's doing more than enough.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Now my bad, and I've got some sort of stats here, and I think what these kind of show is exactly what Lockie mentioned maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago when he said the biggest, with all the pros that this team has and this list has, the biggest thing he's worried about is the level of experience. And these kind of stats I picked up last night off first crack. 80% of teams that win contested possession win the game. And we are currently ranked 17th for contested possession. Like I said, we showed more endeavor this week, but the problem with how inexperienced our side is highlighted when the pressure's on and there's panic, and it's poor decision making, and it's skill execution that goes missing in that 3rd and 4th quarter when the game is on the line, because we don't have these experienced cool heads to go back to. We don't have, arguably Heppel needs to be that Luke Hodge, like settle the troops, control the structures, and he can't do it on his own. And maybe with Merritt out as well, like that's another big hit there too. But you need someone who can go back when the game is on the line and hit that set shot, and we don't have enough of that in the team. The 3rd quarter, we were leading the game. Our kicking efficiency was at 45%. Like, how the fuck are we going to beat anyone if we're missing, more than one every 2 targets? Like we are not going to win shit this year with that kind of stuff. And that is literally as basic as the game gets, is putting the ball on your foot and making it land in someone else's lap, right? So those were the big bads for me. Lach, you kind of developing this persona as the hard truth, hard hitter on this podcast, mate. I'll leave the ugly with you.
Mate, you've stole all my talking points. You've stole contested possessions. You've stole the set goal kicking set shots in the last quarter. Let's go over kicking efficiency just to really finish this off. Our turnovers exiting our defensive 50 were shocking. We handed them 5 or 6 goals where we just butchered it straight to them and they scored immediately. And I wanted to highlight a few players, Heppel, Redman, and Hind. So those 3 players in particular, more than one occasion, kicked it directly to the opposition and they scored.
I think so, man. I think Hind also had a couple overkicked out on the fulls up on that flank as well too.
Yeah.
And from my mind,
I want to bring up, because me and Benno were talking about this watching the replay. I'm a big believer that we need leadership in the group, and if Heppel does no bad, he does no good, he's in the side. But some of the turnovers he had last week, how does he keep his spot? Like, I think we counted like 3 in the space of 5 minutes of just blatant turnovers, like with possession. I'm very, very worried about Hobbs, and if he has a spot on the side, I want him to stay in, but how do you keep him in when like the clangers he had last week? If he keeps it up next week, I don't know if he keeps his spot.
Look, finish what you're saying, and we'll kind of get on to the specific individuals after we finish Ugly. Because I got
like Heppel was the guy I really wanted to pinpoint, and for me, his kicking isn't very penetrating. So when he tries to cross it, switch the play, he leaves it in the air and a defender picks it off. Or if he's kicking down the line to the wing, it's just a really up and under kick that, again, they just pick off super easily. So he's not really putting the ball into a good position for the player he's kicking to. At least with Redmond and Hind, they've got a little bit of penetration to their kick. And I feel like, okay, they might turn it over occasionally, but they also might drill a player and then we're out. Whereas with Heppel, even if he hits a player, the ball spent 20 seconds in the air and all the defenders have shifted across and we're not in a better position. I think he maybe at the start of last season, I thought he was in a similar position where he looked a little bit too old, a little bit too slow, and I thought he turned it around. So I'm praying that that's the same this season.
Yeah, it's almost a really, we talked about him being almost the most improved last year with Laverde. And it definitely looks like it is maybe that foot, ankle, toe, like whatever it is that's been bugging him. Maybe that is starting to flare up, and it is one of those like, we had a ton of depth, but we don't have a heap of depth left. And it is like if you can play, you're playing for right now because we're a vice captain down out there on the field too. So,
yeah.
3-2-1. Now, we've talked about 3-2-1 a few times. I think the way that we want to do it going forward is make it a little bit more of a discussion and come up with an agreed upon 3-2-1 so that we can have the Truth Bombers podcast medalist at the end of the year, of which maybe we'll pay for a $15 cameo appearance for them to accept the award. The podcast has to pay the winners of their awards to accept them. I'll start in no particular order. Peter Wright, Sam Durham, and Shield for me. Obviously, Wright, he gets better week in, week out. Durham, second and third efforts all day long. Shield looked good through the midfield. And then I'll throw in a special mention to McGrath, who I think really did the job on Clayton Oliver, on Petrarca, sorry. Obviously, like Clary got off the chain, and I think that's the whole discussion with tagging is like, yeah, you have more than one good midfielder in another team. But I thought McGrath did a really good job. Petrarca did fuck all day, and McGrath finally kicked a goal as well, which was nice because I think he's like 1-7 for the year as well. And Flip, Russ talked about him earlier too. He was without doubt our number one ruckman on Saturday. He was getting himself like across the ground into contests against flankers to like spoil out of bounds, and like he was just everywhere. I thought he played an incredibly great game. But yeah,
I agree with you. I had 2 meter at my 3 points. I had McGrath too. I really rated. I probably should talk about this more when with the goods that. He wasn't a hard tag on Petrarca, but he was a follow-on with him. Kept with him all day, and at halftime they had very similar stats. And the fact that you can keep Petrarca below 10 possessions at halftime is an amazing feat. And so I had him too. And then I had who did I have at 3? I'd probably go Guelphy at 3. We're really missing that sort of tackle count for us, with having Tipper out and having Snell out. So for me, the number one tackler on there, I had Guelph.
Yeah, I had Wright, Shield, and Ridley. And if I had to give a special mention, it would have been to Durham. I think his efforts around the ground, even without a lot of disposals, was what we're looking for with this blue collar Bombers tag that we've sort of claimed.
Yeah. All right. So I think
so we'll go 2 meter Peter. Definitely best on. I agree with Shield was very good too. So going 2. I know I didn't have in my votes, but both of you guys did. And then Durham was probably my fourth. So I'm happy to go 2 meter Peter, Shield, and Durham if you guys are too.
I might switch that. I think Durham played a better game.
Above Shield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Lucky.
I don't agree, but I'm happy to have a 3-2-1 that's not the norm. As in, we're looking for things that we think as a collective make a great team effort rather than just an amazing individual performance.
Yep.
so you're happy with that 3-2-1? Lach?
I'll let you have it.
We will give Lach a little bit more of the leverage as next week when we get in. All right, Lockie, locked out. I've got a few names for you that I want to run through. And I no doubt you've got some more too. Now, before we get into locked in, locked out, I just want to quickly flick through to the VFL team for obvious reasons. I don't want to look too far ahead, but the Bombers went down to Casey by 3 points, I think, and Tipper missed a shot late that obviously could have been the difference. He finished the game with 2 goals too. Hobbs had 24 touches, 1 goal, 7 clearances. Waterman kicked 3. Baldwin kicked 1, and Joe Atley, who I've never heard of, had 12 clearances, 28 touches, like just had an absolute day out.
He's a new bull. He's a new bull of Essendon.
Is he?
Yeah, he's big. He's a new bull. He's like
What
big
happened?
bodied, can kick a long ball, can kick a goal from the goal square, takes blokes out.
If you have someone like that who's just crushing the VFL that's not actually on the Essendon list, is there an elevation cause? Are we out of lift spots because of the Wanganeen and Martin pickup?
Well, it depends if we put people on long-term injury lists. It depends if we like drop players halfway through the season. There's ways where you can pick up people.
All right.
It's not.
So with those facts in mind, Lach.
Yep.
Heppel locked in, locked out for this week.
I have to lock him in just because he's the captain.
Yeah.
And I think he should be given the opportunity to prove himself.
Right.
So not that he hasn't proved himself a number of occasions over a number of seasons, but in his current form.
Yep. Sam Draper.
I wanted to highlight him. He had 2 disposals, Russ, and we talked him up so much in the preseason that
it hurts so much.
A great year. He's
And
taken 3 marks
And all
over
Australian.
what was that, sorry?
An all Australian year, I believe, was the conversation.
Yeah. He's taken 3 marks in the first 3 rounds. He had 2 disposals for the entire game on the weekend. In the tap outs, he's doing quite well, but we're not getting the first advantage. He's tapping it either to space and the opposition are collecting it, or it just ends up being a contest rather than a clear win for us. He would want to be doing a lot of work in training because we touched on Flip playing a good game, and he's just a bit of a workhorse. Like, he's never going to be elite, but he just provides a contest every single time. I would be very worried if I was Draper. I'm not sure if he needs a break or you just need to put your faith in him and get more games into him. I couldn't answer that question.
Me and Ben we were talking about this over watching the replay. It's like, and we posed this question. It's like, if you take off not what's the future Bombers or what's going to happen, like, 1 week versus 1 week, no look into the future. Flip takes his spot this week, but do you stick with him? Get the games, and he's only played 25 games of AFL footy, like less than 30. It's hard to make that call. I think the Bombers keep playing him, but you have another 2 possession game, and that you got Flip there that can pull in to the best of the best. He's going to be worried in the next couple of weeks if he doesn't pull it out.
I'd agree.
Option of continuing to play Wright, Draper, and Flip, and have all 3 of them play. What do you think structurally we're not?
I think it depends on the team. I don't think Adelaide have the sort of ruck setup like a Melbourne where you need 2 designated ruckmen.
Okay.
Like I'd like to think
Flip
that?
yeah. You think Flip gets locked in?
Locked out this week, unfortunately.
Braden Ham.
Out. Bring in Hobbs. I wanna see Hobbs.
Biggest time. And Nick Hind.
I'd keep him in. I think he's out of form, but he offers something out of our back half that no other player does.
And
I think he's in too. And again, me and Benno were talking about this when we watched the replay. Is it the fact that we've changed our game plan a little bit and we don't see that sort of run off the half back? Because, in the first couple of the preseason games and the first 3 games, we haven't seen that Nick Hind come off the back and run through and, penetrate that defense. Is it the fact that we've changed our game plan, or Nick Hind's a little bit off this season?
Potentially a little bit of both. I would like to think, though, that you give him license to do that occasionally. And maybe he's not working hard enough. Maybe he's not getting to where he needs to on the ground to get himself available. Because looking at our game style, the first 3 rounds compared with last year, it looks like we lack run off the half back.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's part coaching and part form. But yeah, I think we need a bit of something out of that back half.
Well, to do that, you need to have the ball. And we're ranked 17th for fucking contested possession. So we probably just have a lot less of the ball along that back line, which is what happens when you're getting done by 10 goals. Right?
Yeah. True.
So I wonder, there might be a great correlation between, is it Hines breaking lines that wins us games, or is it the fact that we're in winning positions and we've got more control and got more of the ball that then allows Hines to break lines, which then feeds into kind of more scoring, right? Lads, Cox, Snelling, Tipper, and Hurley, are these big enough ins to turn our season around? Are these 5, 6, 7 goal differences? These 4 blokes in the team, are we suddenly back kicking over 100 points? Because given the first 3 rounds of football, 100 points, every team is kicking almost 100 points. It feels like every game. It is such a high scoring start to the season that really suited us last year. But we are obviously, we've got our struggles in front. Are those boys, Snell, Tipper, are they worth 5, 6 goals a game?
Snell and Tipper, that's an easy 2-3 goals maybe for me. I just don't think Hurls being in the back line is going to do anything. I honestly think we'll give Hurls a look. I'd be ecstatic if I was wrong and Hurls comes in and, Benny, you talked about the fact that, maybe he's lost some weight and, he can get a little of his speed into his step, being that tall that has a little more agility. But we're talking about a guy who's played for 2 years. The last time he played, he looked too old for the game. And we thought, is he got another year in him? That was 2 years ago. And he went through everything he's been through with his hip and, not having a big preseason. And I don't see Hurls coming in and making a big impact. Wish I was wrong because I love the guy, and being a Bombers man, I want that Cinderella story. He comes back and absolutely tears everyone apart. Snell, I want him back ASAP. We talked about this in the preseason. We actually noticed a difference when Snell's not there. With the tackle count, he gets a goal, 2 goals a game, lays 5 tackles. We need that. If Tipper comes back, does the same thing, that's an extra 2, 3, 4 goals that we need, plus that intensity in the forward line. There's other blokes. Not too sure.
Do you throw Hurls up forward, Lach?
So he was training with the forwards before he got injured. So potentially, I think we're lacking depth there rather than our back half.
Yeah.
Speaking of the other players, Cox needs a run in the 2s anyway, so he's not going to change anything. I think Tipper and Snelling are incredibly crucial to our team. Tipper adds star factor that without him only Stringer probably offers.
Agreed.
And Snelling is, a very underrated workhorse for us who can chip in with a goal, but his tackling in particular and his two-way running is something that, apart from maybe if we're talking about a Durham or someone like that, like no other players are really offering that for us.
Like a Dev Smith in his Crichton medal year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed, because I think Snelling is a test away on his ankle.
Yeah.
From all reports, I'm not sure how many minutes Tipper played, but he finished the game, no injury. I think you're both right with Hurley. I think maybe you're 4 weeks away from selection, but I think it's a couple of weeks in the twos just to really see, where you're at. There's being fit, and there's like obviously being match fit, and being a step off at the top level, like is something that can cost you both knees, right? So we definitely don't want to see that happen to him after he's just done his hip. All right, easy. Right, now, I'm excited. I'm not normally one that comes up with a lot of the new segments, but when I came up with this segment, I'm pretty happy with my work here.
I'm part of one.
And I know Russ, that coming up with new segments is normally your bag, and you do it pretty well. But Essendon fans cop it for being very like, the umpires, the umpiring, the umpiring, the umpiring. But I also believe that happens a lot with good reason. So I have here a new segment that we're going to call either questionable umpiring. I thought, for fuck's sake, umpire, working name and title. But here's some specific examples of interesting calls from the game, which I wish to draw to the attention of the panel and get your thoughts on it. Sam Durham was pinned for holding the ball on a scrap. He did drag the ball in, thumped it back between his legs. Between his legs, Fritsch then traps the ball between his legs, sitting on the ball, holding it still, and tackling Durham, who now has no possession of the ball, no inkling of the ball. Sam Durham gets pinned holding the ball. Is that holding the ball? Can that be holding the ball?
Did Sam Durham have any hold on the ball?
Sam Durham's dragged the ball in an attempt to then scoop it back out his legs. As he's gone back through his legs, it's gone in between. This is why once we're all up and sponsored, we'll show the actual clip. But Bailey Fritsch is sitting perpendicular to Durham, and Fritsch is literally sitting on the ball. Like the ball can't come out because Fritsch is sitting on it like an egg, right?
So I know the situation you're talking about, Benny. I think it is holding the ball, and the umpires look for a player who drags it in, and regardless of whether they don't end up with possession of it, if it's held into the contest, it's holding the ball.
So you're telling me that you can't grab the ball and what's Durham supposed to do? Not take the ball in that instinct. His instinct is to take the ball, get it out as fast as possible into advantage. He's taken the ball in. The opposition has taken the ball away from him. How is that pinned on him?
My interpretation of the incident was that Durham is being held without possession of the ball. So in that instance, I'm more likely to say that's holding the man more than it's like holding the ball, in my opinion.
If we get to the ball, we can't grab the ball because we're afraid of it being holding the ball. Like you see, like the first thing we went as juniors, you see ball, you get ball. Like, if we're taking that out of the game, it's ridiculous. All right. He's grabbed the ball. He's tried to get an advantage. Someone's taken it away from him. It's out of his possession. I don't know how you can have it out of your possession and be called hold the ball.
All right. So maybe this is how we'll do it. So Russ is saying it's an incorrect call. Lockie's saying umpire's correct call. And that again. Yep. Okay. So an even split. All right. Jake Kelly played a one-on-one on Harms. Kelly watches the ball, looks back to Harms, eyes back to the ball, then makes contact with the player, then spoils the ball in the contest and is paid for infringement, front-on contact, not looking at the ball. Is that a fair assessment? Should you not at all be allowed to check and see where the attacker is while maintaining contact on or eye contact on where the ball is, if you can do it to a point where you spoil the ball?
All right. So I think if he made contact with Harms while looking at Harms, it's a free kick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the interpretation of that is completely wrong with umpires. Like, how do you not look at the defender? Yes, you need to have eyes on the ball, but you need to look at the defender to make sure where he is. If you're defending him, how do you defend the defender if you don't know where he is? Kelly put his eyes on the defender, back on the ball, and then made the spoil. You can't just say you can't look at the defender whilst defending them. Like, that's ridiculous.
I think if the level of contact would be allowed, if he hadn't looked away and then looked back, if it would have been allowed, I think it's allowed, in my opinion. I thought that one was very stiff. Sounds like it's another one call, good call, bad call. Christian Petrarca kicks a goal. After kicking the goal, he motions that the ball was touched off the boot. That goal was not even reviewed. Should players be able to override on a gentlemanly decision like a batsman can walk in cricket if given not out, that they can elect to walk?
It's never going to happen. And to Petrarca, he went up to about 10 different people and said that was touched and was laughing at us like, it's touched. We're talking multiple people, and the umpires paid him didn't even look at, weren't even interested in looking at a review. I don't know how that one got passed.
Do we need some sort of review system where players can challenge specifically where they believe the infraction or whatever has come?
Yeah, you and me went over this pretty hard the other day. I hate the idea of having an idea of doing a review system. It's going to slow the play down. The arc isn't that sophisticated to actually get the clangers. Like, the whole idea of reviewing was the fact that it was clangers. It was so obvious that we needed to have some sort of review system. I would hate the idea of having 3 reviews per game. I don't know if I'm just a traditionalist or I don't think we need it. No.
I'm with you, Russ. I'm very anti a captain's call or something like that. But in that situation, they're supposed to review every single goal in that window before the ball gets back to the center and it's bounced. I don't understand why they didn't at least pause the play just to double check if Stewart's finger got slightly bent back, because they can see Petrarca, as you said, Russ, go up to 8 to 10 different players and say to them it was touched and make the motion. So surely the person in the arc, if they're doing their job, goes, oh, hey, I just want to have another look at this, even if it takes 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Anti-Essendon umpiring. Tom Cutler. Petrarca attempts to stiff arm Tom Cutler, who grabs hold and basically chicken wings Petrarca's arm behind his back, tackles him to the ground. The ball spills out. Play on. How the fuck did you get rid of the ball if your arm is pinned behind?
I don't even want to talk about this one. I was so up in arms, and the fact that Petrarca's laughing at the Essendon. He's looking at 3 Essendon blokes laughing at him. How did I get away with that? I literally had one arm. I threw it across the boundary line. He's laughing at the umpires. He's laughing at the Essendon blokes. It's beyond me.
I think that's a no comment from me, Benny. But I've got one for you, Ben, and I'm not sure if you've got on your list. You've got 2 more?
I got two more.
Oh, there's quite a few. There was quite a few on the weekend.
Nick Martin gets tackled over the line, potentially allows himself to be tackled over the line. However, the tackle was properly laid over the line, preferencing that the ball was out of bounds before really the tackle was properly applied. It's paid holding the ball. Which rule takes preference there? Are you out of bounds, or can you be pinned for holding the ball, even if in the time allocated that you would normally have to get rid of it, you are then out of bounds.
I thought that was stiff, and I think the umpires just change their mind with that all the time. So one umpire will say, oh, no, it was taken over before like the tackle was held long enough. And then the next umpire will go, oh, no, that's holding the ball. I think it's very harsh if you pay holding the ball when he's tackled as he's crossing the line.
Once you're over the line, that's it. There's no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're holding the ball into the boundary line or into the second seat row. Once you're over that boundary line, it's out of bounds. And he was maybe 1 second held, 3 seconds held after the boundary line. It was bullshit for me.
And my last one, Clayton Oliver had 38 touches on Friday night. If you took away every time he throws the ball, how many touches did he have?
Under 30.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted to bring up with you, Ben. He threw it. Not even like a hand pass or a semi-hand pass. He threw it a number of times.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they're not calling it. Are they not calling it just because the play's like still going? So it's like, oh, well, as long as it's moving.
It seems to be this gray area between a closed fist belt to get the ball forward is allowed. An open palm tap is allowed, but there's some sort of gray area that exists where when the ball's on the ground, what determines whether you're open heart tapping it up? Like, to me, that is a throw. It's a shovel. A shovel is a throw. And there is no way in that one motion he's getting under the ball and getting a fist to the ball to pass those out. In my mind, they shouldn't even be possessions. If they're tapped, they should be taps, right? But in my real mind, he is a chucker. He's throwing the ball. Yeah,
it's the old Hawthorn style pass. It's yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think it's possession. I don't think it's a pass either. It's a throw.
All right, lovely. Well, that concludes my questionable umpiring segment. So hope you boys enjoyed that.
Okay. Made me angry, Ben. That's what it did.
And you know what? Probably could have gone on with 4 or 5 more examples as well, because I reckon every time the whistle goes against us, I reckon it's bullshit. So lovely, boys. We're coming towards the end, which means we're getting towards one of my favorite sections, the VFLW. The girls are continuing on their merry way. However, they are not top of the ladder.
What?
Casey remain undefeated. The girls are 5 wins and 1 draw. So that 1 draw with St Kilda.
Now 6 wins, Benny. 6 and 1 draw. I've got the ladder here.
1? Oh, so we're 6 and 1. We've got maybe a 403.5%. Is that our percentage?
428 after this weekend.
All right, so I looked at the old one, but we've defeated North Melbourne, Russ, 88-14.
We're not number 1.
We're not number 1 because we've had a draw. We've had a draw.
Well, how's this for a few teams? Hawthorn, who are below us, have a percentage of 441.3. And Western Bulldogs, who haven't won a game, have a percentage of 9.3 after 7 games. 9.3. It makes our AFL men's percentage look amazing.
It's wild. It's a wild competition. But congratulations to the girls. They're doing really well. And it's also VFL or AFLW grand final next week as well. So Days versus Aaron Phillips. So the D's versus Adelaide in Adelaide. What did you guys think of having the doubleheader on a Friday night? Did either of you watch any of the prelims for the AFLW?
Russ?
No.
Just frozen? This thing frozen?
Look, I think the big difference is going to come this year when all the teams in there. Like, it's hard to get excited about AFLW, I'll be honest, when who do you go for? Like, do I want to go for the Cats? Go GWS. Like, until the Bombers get in there, I'm not going to be that excited, I'll be honest. Like, it's hard. It's different if you're like, okay, it's AFLW, it's Casey versus Williamstown, but it's hard to get a Bombers fan to get excited about AFLW when it's Collingwood versus Richmond. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get that excited about it. When the Bombers come in this year, that's when I'm going to get up and about.
We're going to see Russ's excitement levels go through the roof. Boys, any other last minute, anything else around the grounds? I've got one more, but I'll let someone else do a little bit of talking first if there's anything else you'd like to close out with.
Russ?
No, Danny, go for it.
So good. I've obviously been consuming even more football media than normal. I've been sitting here on my ass for the last 10 days. Nathan Buckley is now on a show called Best on Ground, which premiered on Fox Footy on Saturday night. And it's essentially, it's bounce, right? Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but the only reason I watch bounce is because it's between the game and first crack. It's typically when after watching the last game on a Sunday, have a shower, get the PJs on, Matea's in bed, and then bounce is usually finished, and we'll kind of watch first crack and call it a night. Is Nathan Buckley making a mistake to go down could this be the worst thing for his career to become an Andrew Gaze type figure that he plays on the bounce role? I think for me, his ability to analyze the game as a very experienced and very recent coach, his ability to mentor and produce young men and develop character. I think that Fox Footy are missing a huge opportunity to develop this completely different appeal or this completely different line of information and value and entertainment by taking the cheap road, the easy laugh. They've got, I think Nathan Buckley doing skit comedy, pretending to be on Geordie Shore or whatever the fuck it was. I think it is such a bad look for Bucks. It cheapens his brand massively. And I didn't like it.
I haven't seen it. And I know you were talking about being very excited to watch it. I didn't get to see it. And for someone who I listen to a lot of SEN Talkback Radio, and, he's very much involved with the Monday show and the Tuesday show, early mornings on SEN. And I kind of like the fact that, even listening this morning, he's taken that sort of coach mindset, and he understands that he was belted by the media for so long and how they manipulated a lot of things and to write narratives for him and for the club. And I kind of like the fact that he's in the media right now and is an ambassador for all right, let's not go down the stereotypical beat up roads or, the clickbait roads of the media of what we're going to do for those mindsets. So for me, if he stays in the media and is an ambassador for let's not go down the road of clickbait and, trying to get views and being that sort of devil's advocate of, this is what an AFL coach's mindset is or a number one player's mindset is great. But if he goes down that, like you said, that Geordie Shore or
it just,
sorry?
I just feel like you're taking this incredible mind of the game and incredible,
slapstick maybe,
and you're just giving him the lowest common denominator job. And I think it is just I don't think it's good for his brand personally, but I also feel like we're really wasting this amazing access that we have. I'm not going to see, Jared Wheatley doing fucking slapstick comedy. That's not his bag. And you get so much value out of shows like 360 because they don't go down that line. You have bounce, and bounce is so
slapstick. Yeah. And that's why people like me, I don't watch in the bounce because I don't want to hear those slapstick and, numerology and all that kind of things. That's not my show, but first crack. Yes. The guys in SEN in the morning. Yes. Don't go down with that with Bucks. I think, I agree with you there. He needs to be that sort of take someone someone who's not going to go that road, like make it special. Don't go the slapstick way.
Especially if his goal is like to return to coaching, you know? Like I think he needs to be more careful. I reckon it is. I think like in a year or two he would entertain going back into clubland. I don't think he's resigned to the fact that he's done as a coach and that he's now a media person and that's it. Like I don't think he's Jonathan Brown by any stretch.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like it's hard to tell. Like it's hard to see him away from Collingwood because he's been with Collingwood for so long. But, you know, even on SEN this morning, like, you know, they were asking him questions like, you know, are you prepared for all the media hype that's going to come around this year that, you know, because you're available, you know, and there are jobs at risk, you know, again, Port Adelaide, at Ken Hinkley, you know, people are going to ask the question to you, are you open to coaching? And he didn't even have on his own radio show on a Monday, didn't even have a response where he's like, at the moment, no, but I can't 100% say no.
Yeah. And people change. Like James Hurd's at GWS now, you know.
Do you reckon there is a lot of talk at the moment, now we bring that up, that he will be the successor?
I reckon we're starting to get a little bit carried away, and I reckon my knees are starting to ache, which means we're getting pretty close to that dreaded 1 hour.
Landowners, and let's talk again.
Lockie, your final thought?
On just the Bombers, or are we going off on a tangent these days?
Anything, mate. Whatever you want.
No final thoughts, although I'm very much looking forward to what we produce this weekend on the footy field.
Boys, Thursday night, we will definitely be sitting down to chat about the Adelaide Crows game coming up at Marvel, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you both in the makeshift studio, which will now be at seated level, not standing. Both free Thursday night. Then hopefully we'll do that one in person. It'll be great to see you both and catch up properly.
Yeah, sounds good, Benny.
Awesome. All right, boys. Thank you so much. Go Bombers.
All right, go Bombers.
Go Bombers.